Thank you. So I can confirm that I have just received the resignation of the Chairman of the Council. Councillor Brian Williams, Vice Chairman, will therefore now take the chair.
To welcome you all here on New Year's Day. Council New Year, of course, not New Year. I am obliged to inform you that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Members of the public will be able to view the meeting using the link on the agenda. There are no planned fire alarms this morning. If there is an alarm, please exit by the stairs to the main entrance or use the fire exit stairs at the rear of the chamber. Please also make sure that your mobile phones are all turned off. So now we have to move to the election of chairman, having received the resignation of the previous chairman. So I call for nominations for the election of chair of the council to serve this year until the annual meeting scheduled to be held on Thursday the 9th of May 2024. Each nomination must be proposed and seconded. Can I have a proposal for chairman of the council for the ensuing year, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I would like to nominate Councillor Vince Hunt for the position of chairman.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Are there any other nominations for chairman of the council? I'm pleased to say that there being no other nominations, I am able to declare that Councillor Vince Hunt will be our chairman for the forthcoming year. Now I have to sign a resignation. Yes, I've got to sign a resignation. All right.
Much appreciated. Thank you, members. Okay, we will start with a quick prayer. Dear Lord, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow stronger as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Amen. Just to add to mobile phones, and I think it was neither angelic host or lots of computers at the beginning of the meeting. Please put your computers on mute now if you would. Noise is noise and it can be disruptive, especially if it counts as in full flow speaking. Welcome to this meeting of the Council. For the benefit of those who are vulnerable or otherwise anxious about becoming ill, we respect your decision for those who wish to continue wearing a face mask. It's especially important for those listening remotely that you mute all devices and microphones after use. You may find it easier to be seated while using your microphone. If you're wearing a mask, please remove it while speaking. Please do not hold the microphone by the stem, as I'm told they are very expensive to repair. If the council meeting and committee meetings following look likely to go on past 12 noon, I propose to take a break prior to the consideration of the exempt minutes, rather than stop midway once we break. I think a lot of people have indicated that they wish to go. So item 2 is apologies. Chief Executive.
Thank you. Apologies have been received from the following councillors: Bernie Bentinck, Rob Gittings, Richard Huffer, Tracy Huffer, Elliot Lynch, David Minery, Kevin Pardy, Ed Potter. Thank you.
Okay. Any more? Just looking around the room briefly. I can still hear computers going off. If you don't know how to work your computer, please get somebody to help you to put it on mute. Thank you. So item 3 is the election of the Vice Chair. The Chief Executive has now received the resignation of the Vice Chairman. I call for nominations for the election of Vice Chair of the Council to serve until the annual meeting scheduled to be held on Thursday, the 9th of May 2024. Each nomination must be proposed and seconded. Only those members proposing or seconding a nomination will speak. There will be no general debate after the first nomination. So, nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose Councillor Brian Williams for the position of Vice Chairman.
And that is seconded by... Okay, thank you. Looking around the room, are there any other nominations? No, in which case then, I think Brian has been, re-elected, is the only candidate, is elected as Vice Chair.
Yes, the declaration of office. I almost forgot the next item in the procedure. Can I thank you all for the confidence you have placed in me to be your Vice Chairman for the next 12 months. I am truly flattered. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to item 4, which is disclosable disclosable interests. I'd remind members to disclose any pecuniary or other registrable or non-registrable interest in any matter to be discussed, including an interest in their register of interests, and leave the chamber prior to the matter being discussed. I am looking around the room. I see no hands. So we will move on to item 5, which is the minutes. I'd like to move the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 30th of March 2023 as circulated, with the agenda papers be signed as a correct record.
I second those minutes.
Okay, I can't see any hands, so all those in favour please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Anybody not here at that meeting? Okay, we've got one abstention. Okay, from Mark Williams. So we'll move on to item 6, which is announcements to receive such communications as the Chair, Vice Chair or Head of Paid Service may desire to lay before the Council. I'd like to refer members to the list of official engagements carried out by myself and by the Vice Chair since the meeting of Council on 30th of March 2023, which has been circulated by email. Okay. Item 7, in accordance with Procedure Rule 14, we will now deal with questions from members of the public in accordance with the revised procedure rules. The Assistant Director of Legal and Democratic Services will read out public questions received from members of the public who are not present. The relevant portfolio holder will respond to the questions. I believe we've got 3 questions. Question 1 is from Heather Waters.
Thank you. Her question is this. Government recently introduced controversial legislation that requires voters on polling day to show photo ID when casting their votes at polling stations. This country has never accepted the need for a universal photo ID,
which is a document carried at all times by citizens in many neighbouring countries. Consequently, a good number of UK citizens do not automatically possess accepted methods of photo ID for this purpose. It falls to local authorities to provide the new ID. How many residents in Shropshire are expected to need additional photo ID for voting? How many have already applied for this new document? What is the expected cost to financially challenge Shropshire Council of issuing these new documents? And will government directly fund the issue of voter ID documents, or are Shropshire Council taxpayers expected to pay?
Okay. If the relevant portfolio holder could provide an answer to that question, please. Willem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The response is as follows. The Electoral Commission, known as EC, undertook a public opinion tracker of around 5,000 people in February 22, which allows them to estimate that around 4% of people in Britain did not have any of the pre-existing forms of photo ID required to vote. Using this 4% figure against Shropshire's total electorate would equate to potentially 10,000 individuals not having any of the acceptable forms of photo ID. But this figure would be lower if based on election turnout. For example, at the last general election, turnout in Shropshire was around 70%, so this would mean possibly 7,000 people would need a voter authority certificate, also known as a VAC, in order to vote. And at the last local election in 2021, turnout was on average 40%, so approximately 4,000 people would need a VAC. In January 23, the EC launched the National Awareness Campaign and the VAC application portal opened. Since then, Shropshire has received 361 VAC applications. The VAC online portal is provided by central government, and whilst the electoral services team are required to verify applications via the portal, once verified, the printed document is sent out by a central government print provider, although there are a few small exceptions when paper application forms are requested and processed. It has not been possible to ascertain the overall cost associated with this work, yet given that Shropshire did not have scheduled polls on the 4th of May. However, the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities have determined that new burdens funding for local authorities to cover administration costs associated with VAC applications and staffing to deliver polls with this additional requirement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the second question we have is from Mr. Linton Waters. Mr. Linton Waters is here with us. Welcome. If you'd like to use the microphone and read your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, like many people, were very pleased to hear in September 2021 when your council undertook to develop climate emergency mitigation training for all teams across the council, all councillors, including the Cabinet, and to appoint climate emergency champions in all council departments. This was an appropriate undertaking to guarantee all decision makers understand the enormity of the challenge that is upon us. It's vital that sound climate-friendly decision making runs through all council projects and day-to-day management. And we know knowledge is key to being certain each and every decision does not hamper work to reduce carbon emissions, but positively contributes to climate mitigation aims. Please could you confirm how many council staff, managers, councillors and cabinet members have undertaken and completed the carbon literacy and mitigation training? And if not yet all staff and councillors, please could you state when this essential training will be complete? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. I'm now going to ask Councillor Ian Nellins, who's the portfolio holder for Climate Change, Environment and Transport, to respond. Councillor Nellins.
Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Waters. Carbon literacy training demonstrates the commitment of Shropshire Council's climate pledge. Shropshire Council is demonstrating its commitment to the climate strategy by targeting carbon literacy training at key staff and senior managers, with further training sessions planned. The ongoing commitment supports the Council's existing active programme of carbon literacy training delivered by Save Our Shropshire and which resulted in Shropshire Council being formally accredited with a bronze level carbon literacy organisation by the International Carbon Literacy Trust after completing. Carbon literacy is an awareness of the carbon dioxide costs and impacts of everyday activities and the ability and motivation to reduce emissions on an individual, community and organisational basis. Our accreditation as a carbon literate organisation is a visible badge that shows we are both committed to tackling climate change and serious about establishing and maintaining a low carbon culture. Last year, the Council's Cabinet and Senior Management team, including myself, the Council Leader and the Chief Executive, completed the training together with a number of Senior Managers and the Cabinet. This has been extended to other staff during 2023 and altogether this amounts to 20 key members and officers. We are now in the fortunate position excuse me, of having 4 carbon literacy graduates who are fully informed and equipped to carry out staff training, and they are developing a strategy to manage the rollout of the wider programme to help ensure that the challenge of climate change is widely owned and embedded across the organisation. In addition to this commitment, an introductory e-learning module on climate change is already available to all staff through the Council's internal training portal. Shropshire Council declared a climate emergency in May 2019 and in December 2020 adopted a climate strategy and action plan which establishes the objective of achieving net zero carbon performance by the Council by 2030. The Council's corporate footprint represents only around 1% of Shropshire's total carbon footprint, but the Council can influence as much as 33% of emissions through its regulatory and support functions. Shropshire Council has recently commissioned detailed modelling of its supply chain carbon emissions, and this will inform the focus of further efforts to reduce our carbon footprint in future years. We have prioritised staff involved in commissioning and procurement of carbon literacy training to recognise the fact that 93% of Shropshire Council's carbon footprint now derives from indirect Scope 3 emissions, largely from goods and services provided by others. So the work does continue, and thank you very much for raising the question.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to question 3, which is I can still hear bells and also hear boo-boo-boo-boos. So please do check again if you don't remember turning your IT off onto silent. So the third question is from Mr. Tom Forrester. Yeah, I'm waiting for you to read it.
Right. The question is this. Shropshire Council is looking to reduce public access to its call centre by reducing the call centre hours and thereby saving £85,000, whilst it is still preventing direct public access to the Shirehall. How can Shropshire Council justify this cost saving when it is spending an undisclosed remuneration to an unknown member of its own staff via loss of office payments, which include £117,000 to one member of staff alone on top of their existing salary? The Council have already partially upheld a complaint about the biased consultation process undertaken to gather local residents' views on reducing the call centre hours. Should the review of call centre hours and other community service cost savings under consideration be postponed until we can establish just how much money is being wasted on loss of payments being paid to its own staff, as this money could be better used to help sustain and improve our vital local services?
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to go to Councillor Rob Macy, who is the portfolio holder for Culture and Digital. Councillor Macy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. The Shirehall's not been used as a customer service point for a number of years now. However, it remains open to the public to access council meetings. Council's in-person customer service is now through our Shropshire local facilities, which are open 5 days a week in the Darwin Centre in Shrewsbury and 4 days a week in Ludlow Library, as well as regular Shropshire local mobile visits at a number of different towns across Shropshire on most weekdays of the month. A full list of the mobile locations is on the website. The Shropshire local service, we're not even close. The Shropshire local service is not affected. Bear with me. The Shropshire local service is not affected by the proposals to alter the customer service centres, telephones, services opening times. The CSC would remain for at least 30 hours a week. At the same time, we are constantly improving our online offer to Shropshire residents, the ability to request services and access information. The proposed changes would not result in any changes in the staffing of the CSC. However, it would see CSC employees' focus changing and a reduction in opening times, freeing up time to targeted outbound calls to more vulnerable residents in the county to help identify where early help or support is most needed, giving a better outcome for the individual while reducing possible future demand on council services by identifying and helping with issues before these develop into bigger and more complex problems. Work we have done trialling this approach has seen some significant results and is the different approach that will be key to helping support a healthy population as set out in the Shropshire Plan. The feedback from the consultation exercise is currently being reviewed, and any recommendations following the consultation will come back to Cabinet shortly. And given that the two items mentioned in the question are not directly related, the answer to the question is no. At this time, the review of the Customer Service Centre should not be postponed.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will move then, therefore, to item 8, which is the constitution of committees and allocation of seats to political groups. I think you should note that there was an amendment sent round this morning to Appendix 2, and that was circulated by email. So, I move that the report and recommendations of the Assistant Director, Legal and Governance be received and agreed.
I second.
I can't see any hands, so all those in favour please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 9 then, which is the scheme of delegation. I move that the responsibility for functions set out in Part 3 of the Constitution and the scheme of delegation set out in Part 8 of the Constitution be approved.
I also second the scheme of delegation.
Thank you. No hands, just a computer. Okay, all those in favour please show. Any against? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 10 is the update on scrutiny arrangements. I'm going to invite Councillor Leslie Picton, Leader and Portfolio Holder for Policy and Strategy Improvement and Communications, to present the report and move the report and recommendations be received and agreed. Leslie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I won't speak for very long on this item because it is literally an update. However, there are a couple of things that I do want to pull out of the report. So at March Council, we agreed that we would reduce the number of scrutiny committees from 5 until 4, and that the numbers on those committees would increase from 9 to 11. You'll see in the document itself that we've had to make a number of changes following this to the Constitution. In one of the appendices, you can actually see track changes, so you can actually tell where the Constitution has been amended. So the few things I want to pull out, the Scrutiny Chairs Group, which hasn't met, as to my knowledge anyway, in the last couple of years. It was felt by all concerned when we were looking at this, that the terms of reference around that Chairs Scrutiny Group needed to be strengthened. It will now include, in the past it's just been the scrutiny chairs, but it will now include the vice chairs and also the group leaders. And it will be this group that actually looks and undertakes a review after 6 months, which we think will be about the right timescale, because that should have had 2 meetings of each committee, and will report back on how that new way of working for scrutiny is going. The other thing that is worth pointing out here is that we did have some significant discussion, especially amongst group leaders. If we're looking at a theme rather than a specific item, it may well be that we require perhaps the input of more than one committee. And there are a variety of ways that we can do that. But the easiest way to do it is to say that if we require, say, people and the health committee to work together, that we arrange it so that at the next full council meeting, and this should give us enough time, bearing how many council meetings there are, we actually put a decision to council to have one joint committee And then the first item on that committee would be to choose the chair, etc., etc. That seems the most logical way forward. So those are the things that I wanted to pull out of the report. There is also some, just in 2.5, there's some clarification around minority reports. And also, perhaps most importantly, which is different, is that each scrutiny committee will now be responsible for operating their own and constructing their own work programme. And I'm sure everybody will be pleased to know that we are amalgamating all the different task and finish rules into one single protocol. So we haven't got 3 of them, which we have at the moment. So I'm very happy to propose that recommendation.
I understand that's being seconded by Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Formally second, Chair, reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger, and then Julian.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Support this proposal because I think scrutiny must work. It hasn't worked for a number of years, and I welcome this and hope that it will, and we will be supporting it and giving our best shot to it, because the council is in troubled times, as many others are. This one especially so, as many of us here know. But I also note that as this is new, the understanding I have is that it will be reviewed in around 6 months' time, just to see whether it can be improved, altered, whatever is needed, because scrutiny is an important arm and it needs to be given the importance that many other councils do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Roger. Councillor Julian Day.
Thank you, Chair. The Green Group continues to believe that the better option would be to shift to a committee system which would allow all councillors to be far more involved in decision making. However, we welcome these changes and the opportunity for a review in 6 months' time. There's just one thing I wanted to draw to leaders' attention, which I had raised before, which is another form of scrutiny that is going on in the council is the existence of performance boards, loosely called. We have one for climate change, which is useful. In papers for the LTP, whenever that appears, there's also reference to a performance board. So I just think at some stage we need to tidy that up and work out what their relationship is to full council and to scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Julia Buckley. Julia.
Thank you. I also welcome this report, and particularly because over many months and years, many of us have complained about how we feel the scrutiny process has been toothless or a bit of a talking shop, and it's really welcome that there was a full cross-party debate about how to improve it. We had the external and internal review, and it was really welcome how seriously this was taken, and I can say that the proposal in front of you was worked on collectively by all parties, so we really appreciate that. The last time we spoke here about scrutiny, I said that scrutiny in Shropshire is not all bad and that we had some examples of really strong scrutiny, and we do. They were the examples where we work apolitically, so that when we're scrutinising the health service or water bodies or private developers, in other words, where we all work together to scrutinise a third party. And so what has come out of that is that by working cross-party, we are much more likely to have decent scrutiny. So this is really welcome. I'd also like to draw out the reference to more green papers, which is in there. Again, very welcome, giving scrutiny members, so that's the widest possible number of councillors, the opportunity to get involved earlier on in developing policies. So thank you.
Okay, I've got no other hands, so Councillor Butler.
Sorry, shut up.
Councillor Butler reserved his right.
Nothing more to add, Chair. Thank you.
Right, leader, now you can go.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I'm literally just three things really. Roger, you obviously weren't listening to me. We will be reviewing the scrutiny procedure after 6 months. That's actually in the, I think it's actually in the document itself. Julian, we did, forgive me, I think Duncan was dealing with it at the time. We did talk about performance boards because we were actually talking about how we wanted to make sure that the climate board fed in through scrutiny and then fed in through to council. And I think we agreed, other group leaders may nod or deny, that it would go to the relevant scrutiny committee. But again, nothing in that sense, nothing is set in stone, so we can make those decisions. And Julia, thank you for your support on that. I'm sure at some point I will remind you about apolitical, but there we go. I'm happy to recommend the proposal.
Okay. Well, it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Nope, that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Move on to item 11, which is notices of motion. The following motions have been received in accordance with Procedure Rule 16. The first one is a motion received from Councillor Joyce Barrow and supported by Councillors David Evans, Simon Harris and Chris Schofield. One of you will need to tell me which one is seconded. Joyce.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking Rachel Connolly of the Labour Group, who's put forward an amendment which I'm happy to accept and fully incorporate into mine. Shropshire Council must address pollution and determine planning applications, taking environmental impacts into account. A 2016 study found that most of the world's population lives under polluted skies, affecting their ability to see stars. Artificial lighting can disrupt sleep and stargazing, with excessive and upward lighting being the main culprits. Shropshire values its nighttime character and energy conservation, so sustainable lighting practices should be encouraged to reduce our carbon footprint. Outdoor lighting should be purposeful, appropriately targeted, which I think reflects the amendment that's been put forward, and emit lower amounts of harmful blue light to minimise disruption to wildlife and the environment, while saving energy and money. This has been very much on my Oswestry Rural Parish Council's agenda for a number of months. There have been issues in my area from a dairy farm, and in the past I know Myra and Roundabout, there were problems with lighting pollution, and I was contacted over that, and also the waterworks in Oswestry as well. So I obviously support this, and I hope everybody else can. Thank you.
Thank you. And who's actually formally seconding it? David Evans. Thank you. Okay, Rachel Connolly.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that you've accepted this amendment, and there's just one part that I felt was missing. I've received calls and emails from local residents regarding the current street lighting provision late in the evenings and early mornings, and how unsafe people feel when walking with little or no street lighting. Some people have no option but to walk. Young people walking to college or shift workers and people in the hospitality industry may be concerned about a further reduction in lighting. I understand the environmental aims of this motion and feel we must not overlook the concerns of pedestrians, and that adequate street lighting makes them feel safer when walking late at night and early in the morning. And I hope a balance can be struck between addressing environmental needs and ensuring our residents have the confidence to walk outside of daylight hours. And I thank you for considering this.
Thank you. Well, there was only one tabled amendment, which Councillor Barrow has happily accepted into her motion. So I haven't got any other hands. David, I take it you don't wish to respond to anything. Joyce, is there anything you wish to say? No. Good. All those in favour then please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Unanimous? Crikey. I'm normally at this stage going on to amendments to amendments to amendments to motions. So, right, okay. We will then move on to the second motion, which has been received from Councillor Leslie Picton. And
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You didn't actually give a chance to debate the actual motion. You went to accept the amendment and it went straight to a vote.
Thank you very much for pointing out my failing, which wasn't actually a failing. I looked around the room and nobody put their hand up. And I did say I'd look around the room and there are no hands. Well, the amendment was accepted, so. Okay. Let me tell you this. When a motion is accepted into it, it becomes a substantive. And so I looked around the room and there was nobody indicated to speak on the substantive. So. Well, that's very kind. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I did think we had a discussion about respect the other day, and I would suggest possibly, Councillor Wilson, that you bear that in mind. Thank you. Okay, we will move on. I thought it was going too easy. To a motion received from Councillor Leslie Picton and supported by Councillors Ian Nellins, Dean Carroll, Simon Harris, Brian Williams and the Conservative Group. Obviously, one of you will need to indicate who's seconding. So, Councillor Leslie Picton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just go outside and get Pram for some teddies. So regarding this motion, I certainly don't intend to read through all of the written motion that you have in front of you, because you can read that for yourselves. But some of you may be thinking, why am I... Sorry, Councillor Parsons?
No, sorry, I'm just trying to get things.
Oh, okay, fine. I thought you were waving at me for a minute. Some of you might be wondering why I've brought a motion to council that is about football. Some of you who know me well will know that that perhaps is not surprising. Some of you may also know why this motion is really important. So I was asked if I'd be willing to bring this motion, not because I'm the leader of the council, but because actually I know what it's like, what that heartache is like when your football club is badly managed, mismanaged. And in my case, as a very proud Portsmouth supporter, twice. But you know, football clubs are about so much more than the team on the pitch. Half of the world's population consider themselves to be fans. That's 4 billion people. And they reckon there are 270 million people playing the game. And women's football is the fastest growing global sport in the world. According to financial modelling, a League One club can bring as much into the county as £10 million to the local area. I'm told that Shrewsbury Town actually bring closer into 14 million. And if you add in the social value of around £6.5 to £7 million, that's £20 million to the local economy. And we should never underestimate the value of having a town's name read out and mentioned time and time again in result programmes and highlights programmes of a weekend and midweek when there's midweek games. And I'm not even going to quote the likely lads here. If you know, you know. But these days, football is used to improve inclusivity, to improve mental health, to improve fitness and combat loneliness, to improve confidence and to get people back into work, and to help people who have found education a challenge. Football is being used as a real positive for individuals, communities and society. And you only have to look at the brilliant outreach programmes that are offered by all of our football clubs across the county to see how important they are to their communities. But what happens when this goes wrong? Following the pandemic, many football teams outside the Premiership are struggling financially. And for some, if you add mismanagement into that, you have a situation that could threaten the very existence of the club. Ask the people of Bury about what their club meant to them, although there is some good news around that. But ask the people of West Bromwich, ask the people of Scunthorpe, of Coventry, of Wigan, of Derby. I'm sure you've heard about the fan from Wrexham who put his whole redundancy payment into the fans' trust to protect his beloved club. Well, we all know how that turned out. But sadly, there's not many fairy tale endings. And don't think this won't, if anything happened to our football clubs, it won't impact on the council, because it will. Coventry had to buy the stadium. And many, many clubs have been contacted by fans of clubs in their darkest hours, begging for council support. It's not the owners that are asking for support, it's the fans, it's the supporters, because their lives are absolutely entwined with their football. But it should never get to this stage. For years, the FA have said they were going to introduce a fit and proper person test and look to change the way that football revenues were cascaded through the leagues. I'm not saying for 1 minute, by the way, that any of our football clubs are financially mismanaged. In fact, it's the opposite. But they do need the football wealth to be spread more fairly through the leagues. I'm sure it won't have escaped your notice that only in the last couple of days, there has been significant concern around Shrewsbury Town. The statement released on Tuesday said they had lost over £2.3 million in the last 2 years. And yet, you know what? The Premier League owe them money. I bring this motion today to ask Council to support Fair Game, which is a campaign to change the way football is managed and run. And there are some specific asks in this campaign. An independent regulator for the sport, a refocus on values rather than profit, and football clubs to be really recognised as key parts of local communities. But also the establishment of a sustainability index, which will relocate payments made to clubs to reward those which are run well, those that respect equality standards, and those that actually do bother to engage with their fans and communities. It also asks that fans are given the final say, and if any of you have been involved in a club that's had to move, you will know that the crown jewels, the name, the nickname, the strip, the ground, is really an important part. Let fans have the final say on that. I'd also like to point out that the government actually has produced a white paper, brilliantly led, I hasten to add, and it's a fan-led review, brilliantly led by Tracy Crouch MP, who was the former sports MP. If you haven't read it, I urge you to read it, because you will hear real fans' voices in that report. So I'm asking you today to support this, to declare that we as Shropshire Council declare our support for the Fair Game Manifesto, which is called Solutions for Our National Game, and also that we call on other councils to join us in our support. When you're out there talking to other people in other councils, get them to support Fair Game too. Ask the leader, that's easy, that's me, and the chief exec to write to the Minister of Sport, our local MPs, and perhaps especially the chair of the Local Government Association Culture, Tourism and Sport Board, who does have a really good, I'm told, relationship with the FA. But we want them to lobby for the following to be included in,
10 seconds,
in the new remit. I'm not going to read the rest of it, it's there. But the one thing I would say to you is, we are blessed in Shropshire. We have many successful clubs, league and non-league, and all of them mean an incredible amount to their communities.
Thank you.
But these football clubs are far more than about kicking a ball. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and that is being seconded by. Thank you, Councillor.
Second.
Sorry. Yeah.
Councillor Harris, are you indicating to second or speak?
I'm seconding and I reserve my rights.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I must say it's not the football club. I note the recent comments and I think we support this in total, yes. But I'm surprised, isn't it? Well, there are other crises that are also occurring at present. I think there's one organisation who realised that they were in crisis after the elections last Thursday. This council as well is not in a very good position. So there are some, and I would welcome a motion saying that this council as a whole wishes to have better funding from government. But to come back to the motion, yes, it is important for the economy of this county that it does succeed. So yeah, we will be supporting it as we would with other motions if it came to this council and asked for support. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Mike Isherwood, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support this, really welcome this motion. I don't think it would apply, sadly, to Oswestry's local team because they play in the Welsh Premier League, but but they are a very successful team, and importantly, their charity arm, the TNS Foundation, is at the heart of the community, especially in providing youth services that the town council commissions, and also the holiday activities. They're heavily involved in that. So many things just wouldn't happen without them. So although this wouldn't apply to them, we should do everything we can to support local football teams, because some of them are in a precarious financial position. It seems that if you don't have a billionaire Saudi owner or some Hollywood film stars to put money in, then things can be quite dicey. So yeah, fully support this motion.
Thank you. So I've got Councillors Tony Parsons and then Alex Wagner. Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we fully support this motion, and this is a very serious situation right across the country for many football clubs. What's being proposed here from the Fair Game proposal will help to support football clubs and to assist the fans and the community that is largely affected by this. The reason that this is needed is because of as has already been referred to, the fact that the fit and proper person test for ownership does not seem to be working as it should do. We have many owners, both within the UK and overseas, that see football clubs as a trophy in themselves. And when they get bored of them, then they either remove the finance that they'd previously put into the club, and it tumbles quickly into administration and even liquidation, as we have seen recently with Bury, that has already been mentioned, but also Macclesfield and other clubs that have felt that. I particularly like the item 5 in this motion, whereby fans will have a say on these crown jewels, including the geographical location, because some owners have regarded football clubs as being a franchise. If you remember Wimbledon was played in Plough Lane in London. The owners then wanted to move the franchise, as they saw it, to Dublin before ending up in Milton Keynes. There are many issues here that trouble football fans around this country and around the world, in fact, and we believe that this motion here, putting support behind the Fair Game Manifesto, will help in this situation.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Wagner.
Well, I just wanted to say I really support this motion and I'm delighted to see it to council. I think a quote that's always stuck with me is Pope John Paul, who said, of all the unimportant things, football is by far the most important. I absolutely relate to that, because Shrewsbury Town Football Club has always been a really important bit of my life and my week and kind of how I structure where I am. I think that the proposals this lays out are eminently sensible, and as the council leader alluded to, really important in a week where Shrewsbury Town has been facing some uncertainty, even though it has been our second best league result in 34 years. So I wholeheartedly support this motion. One thing I did want to quickly raise is I know that Shropshire Council has a football liaison committee because I am on it. I don't think it has met in the time that I've been a councillor, or I don't think it's had much to do with it. It might be worth reviving that to see if we can work with TNS, Telford, if, you know, fans on the border, Shrewsbury Town and others.
Thank you. Councillor Heather Kidd.
Just briefly to reassure the Leader of Council that if she is going to be writing to the Chair of the Local Government Association Culture, Tourism and Sport Board, he's actually the Leader of Portsmouth City Council. And therefore will receive this well, and I know him well.
As do I.
Good. Councillor Alan Mosley, then Councillor Viv Parry. Alan.
Generally speaking, I support this motion and hope that everyone will. And I just wanted to congratulate Leslie on the vehemence and the support she's shown for football and the certainty regarding and emphasis within her speech. However, I declare an interest because I actually born and bred in Stoke and support Stoke City. And I am actually deeply ashamed of that every time I see Bet365 advertised on the television and on the shirts, the players, and see how much the directors of Bet365 pay themselves on an annual basis. That is a complete travesty of what football should be about, and it runs throughout most teams in the Premier League and also in the Championship. Many in football are overpaid, arrogant, and extremely greedy, both in terms of gaining notoriety or publicity, and also the money that they hope to make from it. I'd also like to put this into perspective, that I wish that Leslie would be able to speak with the same vehemence, the same decisiveness to her government in terms of the problems of poverty and the cost of living that are affecting so many people in Britain today. So please, can she adopt a similar campaigning zeal in the course of her duties and in the course of those she meets, related to the number of residents throughout Shropshire who are suffering from the failures of this government?
Good. Councillor Viv Parry.
Thank you. It's not very often I agree with the Leader of the Council, but I do agree with her on this one. My daughter and her family are great followers of Wolves, and I know how much money comes into that club through the franchise and everything else that they have. I'm really interested in these teams now because you've got women playing, and I think it will help to get women, young children who are in the schools to play football, and I'm hoping it's going to be the girls as well. I remember my father, we couldn't have our dinner on a Saturday night until my dad came home and told us that Preston North End had won, and then we could all have dinner. So, you know, it was an important thing in our family. I really agree with the leader of Councillor Mosley, that I hope you're going to be as vehement about everything else that we asked for on the council. But I really am very pleased that you brought this motion, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that you say that you couldn't have dinner until your father came home and said Preston North End had won. Yes. I hope you ate often, more often than not. Thank you. Okay, I am looking round the room. Are there anybody else? I will then go back to Councillor Simon Harris, who seconded, who reserved his right.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased that Leslie has not only just brought this to the issue of football to the council, but also that apart from a little bit of politicking going on, that we do seem to have a general consensus that this is a motion that warrants our unanimous support. And I did want to wrap up as to say why I believe that we should support this motion unanimously. I mean, I too am from the South Coast, and my own club, like Leslie's, was dragged through the mire, lost its ground, virtually lost its place in professional football. And if anybody here hasn't actually been to a professional football match, I would strongly recommend that you do make the effort, because there you will see the whole of life pass before you. And while I appreciate that this motion can be divisive, because not everybody, as Leslie, I'm sure, and many of us in this room would say, actually get football. It can be divisive because interference from a government regulator into a system which is highly meritocratic, where money does actually...
Yes, that wasn't me.
I'm losing. May not be to everybody's political taste, but I would be grateful. Yeah, I have got my microphone on. I would be grateful if those prejudices were put aside. I'm also be grateful if any prejudice around the non-intellectualism of football are all. Sorry, my phone, my microphone's not working, but I think I have a booming enough voice to finish if you don't mind me standing up.
Just soldier on, please, because you're running out of time.
Right, well, so please put any prejudice that you have against football, you know, that it may be a right-wing breeding ground, maybe those days are now gone. Please put those prejudices aside and please vote for this motion. And I'll give it for one primary reason, which I'm afraid Leslie just hedged around. Football is community. Anybody who goes to football will see community actually working. Where I sit with my season ticket, I see people, pensioners who clearly have looked forward to going to their local team, and I appreciate Councillor Parry's input, to watch their local team on a regular basis. And you talk about poverty, this may be the one thing that they can look forward to throughout the whole, well, probably the whole month, from week to week. And secondly, I can see in football community through divorced parents, divorced families with their children. I see disabled people there. And if we lose football teams, the community suffers. Vincent Kompany was saying on the radio the other day that the whole of Burnley, a deprived, depressed community, the whole of Burnley suffers when the football does badly. So just to wrap up, if you could put any prejudice you have against football aside, and I'd be grateful if you would vote unanimously to support the leader's motion on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie.
Yep, just I literally was going to come back on a few points. Of course, Councillor Isherwood, you could have a word with TNS and get them to join the right league, but that's another matter. But actually, there's nothing to stop you getting in touch with the Welsh FA, because you never know, they might actually do this before the English FA. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Roger, I'll buy you a crowbar. Thank you, Councillor Mosley. Stoke, interestingly enough, put on 20 coaches every match for away supporters to attend away matches. That is some incredible commitment. And Alan, I honestly couldn't agree with you more. You will be aware that the government have actually said they want to stop gambling companies sponsoring football on the front. I think there's still going to be some logos on there, but I'm very proud to say that my team is sponsored by the University of Portsmouth. I thank you all. I get the impression this is going to be unanimously supported. When I take this back to those who asked me to bring it, they will be over the moon. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. All those in favour of supporting the motion, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Good. We will move on then. We have the next motion has been received from Councillor Bernie Bentinck and supported by the Liberal Democrat group. Unfortunately, Councillor Bentinck is not here today, so I think it's going to be proposed by Councillor Alex Wagner. Alex.
Thank you. So health services in Shropshire have been a major topic of debate and concern lately, both inside and out of the chamber. But part of the package which has received less attention is the state of dental services. This motion, written by Councillor Bentinck, seeks to see what this council can do to address and make some suggestions over the increasing inaccessibility of those services. You can see the motion in front of you, and I just wanted to raise one part in particular to highlight the scale of the issue in our county. Currently, there are 68 NHS dental practices in Shropshire. On the 17th of April, 50 were listed on the NHS Find a Dentist page for Shropshire. Of these, 19 were explicitly not accepting new patients, and 18 had not provided a recent update on their availability. 7 were only accepting patients from other dentists. Just 6 were accepting children aged 17 or under, with the nearest to Shrewsbury being Baston Hill or Much Wenlock. Shockingly, and probably most shockingly of all amongst those statistics, is that only 5 were accepting adults or those entitled to free dental care. The nearest site to here is Telford, with Walsall and Old Hill also offered by the NHS Find a Dentist website. The motion calls on Shropshire Council to take 3 actions. The first is to liaise with the ICS to ensure that there is sufficient funding and dentist availability within a reasonable commuting distance of where people live, and to lobby for that. The second is to ask the ICS to keep an updated dashboard of dental availability, new patient registration, and those in the county without a registered dentist in order to allow more effective scrutiny and to target resource. The third is to regularly scrutinise dental services, or more regularly scrutinise them, at HASC and Joint HOSC. I won't talk for much longer, but I hope that this motion can raise some awareness of the scale of the issue that's in Shropshire when it comes to dental services, and spur on some positive changes which Shropshire Council could undertake for celebrities in need of dental care.
Thank you. Who's actually seconding Councillor Heather Kidd? Are you going to reserve your right to speak now? I am looking around the room. Yes. Right. Oh, lots of hands going up. So can you put your hands up again at the back? Oh. Hold them up till I give you a nod. No, that's all right. I've already got you, Viv, actually, so there were several that went up together. Yeah, that's why I nodded. All right. Okay, Claire Ward.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask why Councillor Bentley isn't here today, if it is so important. He's not actually. He's got a dental appointment. So, I just. I think personally, I think it's quite disrespectful for us to be sat here debating this when he's not here. He could have asked for it to be postponed to next time or something. So I do wonder why he's not here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Viv Parry.
Thank you very much. Maybe he's ill today, you don't know. Can I just say that I have had a problem with my teeth actually for quite a while. I shouldn't really admit that, but I have. And the dentist that I have had in Ludlow, the money has gone up and up, and I'm sure everybody realises it is now £63 just to have your teeth looked at. Nothing done to them, just to look at them. And really, people who haven't got any money, and a lot of us at my age haven't got that much money, would like to set, and I have said actually in the dentist, oh, that's rather a lot of money, and we want it up front. So when I had to go because I had problems, 2 of my teeth needed capping. I was told by the dentist, oh yes, I can really do that for you, and I can do it for you as soon as possible. So I said, how much is that going to be? And he said, £1,300. So I said to him, oh, thank you very much, went downstairs, and the girl said, but we'd like £500 off you now. So I said to him, are you going on holiday anytime? And he said, yes, I am. And I thought when I got outside, not on my money, you're not. And that's the honest truth. You know I'm a comic, but that was the honest truth. So I have looked around. I have found 2 dentists who are NHS in Church Stretton, one in Cleobury Mortimer, one in Leominster. So if anybody needs a dentist, those are the ones to go to. I went to the one in Church Stretton, really nice, really, respectful.
Recommended.
Sit down. It's cost me £69, that's all, to have the 2 teeth done. So there's a big difference. It pays to look around, and we need to tell our constituents where they can go to get it done cheaper, because people are going and paying these extortionate prices and saying, oh, it was a lot of money. So we need to do that, and that is something, and that is why I believe in this motion. People should know how much it's going to cost, and I'd like this council to help in some way to let people know where they can get what I call a proper NHS dentist. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed that look into your mouth, Steve. Thank you. Councillor Cecilia Motley, then I've got Councillor Julia Buckley and Councillor Kate Halliday. Right? Oh,
Thank
yes.
you very much.
Yes, you did. I will come to you next, actually, you did. So about 10 hands went up together and I was a bit perturbed trying to get them all down. So I will bring you in next, and then I will bring in Cecilia. Okay?
I was just going to say that this isn't just a local crisis, this is a national crisis. And you can see how badly Shrewsbury and Shropshire are served by the NHS dentistry, but it's really not worth dentists being on the NHS. They get far more money, they're paid far more being a private enterprise. I have a dentist in Radbrook who was taking NHS children only. He's now stopped. He said it's just not worth his while. So we need to look at national, but I really welcome this motion, because this is something, if you think about how bad NHS is, dentistry and mental health are way, way behind. And this also has an impact on A&E services, because people will turn up at A&E in huge pain from dental abscesses. So I absolutely welcome this. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Now I will go back to Councillor Cecilia Motley. Sorry about that. I do apologise, Julia. I thought I'd put your name down, but I hadn't. I was trying to scribble. So, no, Councillor Motley.
Thank you very much indeed. I think when we're talking about dentistry, it is important to realise that there are two really difficult factors here. First of all, NHS dentists have not been receiving more patients on the NHS since 2006. And the way that dentists work is completely different to the way, for example, that GPs work. Although many practices have maintained a list of NHS patients since 2006, you can't just register with an NHS dentist in the same way as for a GP, because they're commissioned to provide a level of dental activity rather than care for a specific group of patients. And I think I would absolutely agree with Julia that this is not a very satisfactory way of doing things. This is a national problem. This is not a problem that is specific to Shropshire. The other thing that I think members need to take into account is that dentistry was particularly hard hit during COVID, because if you remember, it was impossible to go and see a dentist, basically because of the proximity of person to person and the fact that they had to clean down the entire dentist surgery in between sessions. So it's not surprising that it's taking a while to get back to normal, but I am not actually going to recommend to my group that we support this motion, just because I think it completely fails to register the fact that we are trying very hard indeed. I would very much commend to Councillor Bentinck, because I think it missed his eagle eye, that the Health and Wellbeing Board considered this on the 20th of April and will be asking for regular updates on this. It is very much under the eye of the ICS, because it is a very important subject, and we are absolutely cognizant of the fact that it's not back to where it should be. But a lot of work is going into this. It really is. Just to try and give you a little flavour, community dental services across Shropshire and Telford and Wrekin are managed by the Shropshire Community Healthcare NHS Foundation. And the annual contract value for the community dental service is 3.3 million, which I would suggest isn't very much, and it could go up. But they do provide the following services. They do in-hours urgent dental care for patients across Shropshire that don't have access to regular dentists. They have dental access centres located in Shrewsbury, Oswestry and Dawley. And in fact, there's a new dental practice that has opened up in Oswestry. They do urgent and emergency dental treatment and advice out of hours for local population and visitors to the county, a full range of dental care to both children and adults with special care needs. And by referral, they will also do treatment under general anaesthetic and conscious sedation, which I've had and is pretty nasty. And obviously domiciliary dental services for patients that can't go to a dental surgery due to mobility problems. And the dental advice line, which has been set up, which obviously Councillor Bentinck wasn't terribly impressed with, but I will make a note of that and make sure it gets up the line there. And dental surveys of school children to inform local dental service planning and targeting and prioritisation of preventive programmes to improve oral health. As far as the resolutions here, number one, this is very much on the radar of the ICS, as I said before. I don't think it is fair to demand anything from the ICS, but I suppose requesting an updated dashboard of dentist availability, I will feed that one up the line. And Viv is right that shopping around at the moment is best. Provision of dental services is in any case going forward to the health scrutiny committees.
Last 30 seconds, Cecilia.
I think that whilst Councillor Bentinck is quite right to draw attention to the state of dental surgery around the country, we have to deal with Shropshire here. We are doing our very best and we are monitoring it very carefully. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Julia Buckley.
I agree with Celia that this is a national problem. The problem quite specifically is our national government and its choice to deliberately and systematically withdraw funding from the NHS and dentistry over the last 13 years. It is a political choice that this current year has an underspend of £400 million for NHS dentistry. So they have only commissioned enough NHS dentists for 50% of the country. That is a political choice. And as a result, we've heard dentists leaving the NHS. 2,000 dentists a year are leaving the NHS because they want a secure contract and enough money to pay the bills. So we can have all the dashboards we like to monitor this national disgrace, but if you actually want to reverse the decline, we need a proper government that invests upfront in an NHS which is free at the point of access.
Thank you. Let's try not to interrupt councillors while they're speaking, even if we feel like it. Thank you. Councillor Kate Halliday and then Councillor Roger Evans.
Yeah, the Labour Group will be supporting this motion. The impact of poor dental health on children and adults is very severe. It impacts not just physical health, but also mental health, and really disrupts the whole of the health system locally, as it has already been pointed out in terms of impact on A&E. So the Labour Group will support this motion. Anything to highlight the issues certainly is going to help, but I think it has been repeated time and time again. This can't be solved purely locally. This is a national issue.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Roger Evans and then Councillor Leslie Picton. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Motions and questions at full council are important. To me, it's one of the most important things here. And I note the comments that were made about the absence of the original proposer for this. And I think that was totally uncalled for, because up until virtually 24 hours before the closing date for the questions and then the motions for this council, we were told as councillors we would not be allowed to ask questions or motions at this council with no consultation whatsoever. It is urgent, and that's why it's here, even though Councillor Bentinck wasn't here to make the case, as has been showed by the speeches that are around here. So I welcome the motion here. I'm sorry that Bernie isn't here, but unavoidably he was away. But I'm glad this motion is here, and we are all seen to be supporting it. But I do totally disagree with making personal comments about people being here or not. Uncalled for, not needed, and should not be made. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Leslie Picton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All I was going to say is that I don't see the point of approving a motion for things we're already doing. It's already been to the Health and Wellbeing Board. It's being monitored by HOSC. I don't know what you think we do at the ICS board, but you know, if you think we give the ICS a soft time, I wouldn't want to be on the end of Cecilia's tongue on it ever, because we are hammering the ICS to ensure that we try and get the best services for Shropshire. What is the point of approving a motion for the things that we're already doing? No, because what it actually says, Councillor Buckley, is that you believe we're not doing that. So why absolutely would we support that? Because this motion is saying you are not doing it. We absolutely are. The Conservative group will not be supporting the motion. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Heather, you seconded. There are no other hands that have gone up. I'm looking around the room just to make sure. Heather?
Thank you. If I could put the politics aside here, because that's where we've gone with it. Actually, I don't care which government does something about it. We just need a government that does do something about this. And this has been going on for well over a decade, probably two. Because I can remember actually 30 years ago having to scout around actually for an NHS dentist when I moved here. So, alongside all of this, I think listening to the debate, and I think that's what we're here for, is to listen to a debate and then decide what we're going to do. There is a communication problem. I knew the Health and Wellbeing Board had done stuff on this because I now get the agendas. The point is the general public don't. And actually, if you ask the general public what the ICS is, they haven't a clue. If you've been to a big conversation event, they're all stumped by what the ICS or the ICB actually is. So there's a major piece of work to be done around all of this, and it doesn't matter whether you're an independent, a Liberal Democrat, Labour or Conservative, we all have a duty to make sure people know what's going on. The big issue here is that actually this needs to be in the public domain, all of it. And I am really grateful that actually the Health and Wellbeing Board and the ICS are taking this on board. But we need to have regular communication about those things to see where we're going. We need target times. And no one, even this motion, mentions the fact that actually you can still have an NHS appointment in Wales. My dentist is an NHS dentist in Wales, just over the border. That should be included in all of this work. And I find actually that the ICS and the ICB, when I've spoken to Simon Whitehouse or whoever, are quite resistant to talking to those people over the border where we can share services, because the border is porous. We share ambulances, we share our acute hospitals, we share a number of different services, and actually dentistry should be one of those things that we're all enabled to access and be aware of what you can access. My daughter has 4 children, mainly because she decided to do what her mother did. Very, very poor thoughts. But it has taken her, because one of them was born at the beginning of the first lockdown, and the fourth one was born later. It has taken her 3 years in a Welsh dentist to get her children all registered. The older 2 were. So there are significant issues. My other issue is to bring up actually what Julia was saying, is that we do have an impact on A&E from this, because people in dental pain, as I was after the series of lockdowns and not being able to have dental care, it's a significant issue. It is one of the most painful experiences you can have. But also, dentists pick up mouth cancer. And that is not being screened in the way it should. And alongside all of that, there are access issues for many people in rural areas who cannot get public transport to all of that. So if this motion has done nothing else, because of course we will be outvoted, it has raised it in the public domain, which is really important. I do hope that scrutiny do look at that, and that actually something, and I'm going to look at both Cecilia and Leslie to do this, we do something a lot better around communication of what's going on and what people are trying to do to deal with this particularly difficult issue. We want mouth cancer to be nipped in the bud before it gets to a point where it's a major problem to the health service here. We need children to get used to going to the dentist. We need rural people to have access to a basic service, not just the bigger towns. So I would be grateful if you listened to the debate and thought through all of that. And I would have changed the word demand to request in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Alex Wagner.
Well, I think it's been a lively debate. Absolutely, I think some sensible points made by all sides, changing the word from demand to request. But I don't think I've got anything else to say, and we should proceed to the vote.
Thank you. Okay, well, it has been well debated. All those in favour of supporting this motion, please show. Yes, we will. And those against, please show. Any abstentions, just to give anybody who wished to abstain? No. Sorry, what were those? 26 for, 38 against. That motion has fallen. Thank you. Move on to item 12. We will crack on now. Questions from members. So, six members' questions have been allowed in accordance with Procedure Rule 15. Questions we've received from Councillor Biggins, Houghton, Kidd, Dean, Buckley and Wilson. Councillor Biggins, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. I'd like to thank the portfolio holder for his answer. I noted in the reply that the council and developer are committed to completing the roundabout in a timely fashion. But since planning was first granted in December 2014, no roundabout has appeared. As this is such an important issue for literally hundreds, if not thousands, of residents in Whitchurch, can I implore the leader of the council to take a personal interest in this matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Houghton, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you to the portfolio holder for the response and for the reassurance that clients referred to social care are signposted towards attendance allowance, and also for the link to the benefits website to sort out or try and identify the number of people in receipt of attendance allowance. But the whole thing about attendance allowance is it's very often people who are eligible are nowhere near adult social care, and they don't need to be. They just need that little bit of extra help. And what I'd really like to know is how this council is helping those people to have help and get support to fill in what is an extremely complicated form. If anyone has ever helped a local resident to fill those forms in, they take absolutely hours and they are mind-bogglingly difficult. So I'd really like to ask Celia just how are voluntary organisations being funded? Is the funding adequate to help those people that do not come to adult social care, but who are or who may be eligible for attendance allowance? Thank you.
Cecilia, do you have an answer to that, or is it something you'll need to come back with?
This is something that I'm very happy to pick up for you, Ruth, because it's a good point. So I'll certainly take it up and provide you with an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heather Kidd, do you have a supplementary question?
I do.
Oh, what a surprise.
Thank you, Grillham, for your answer. I think all of this is really up in the air and there is no detail around it. And I've looked at the stuff that's come in through the LGA and all sorts. But actually, we have a number of funding pots that actually need it, not least the North West Relief Road, which I think was about 4.2 million from the LEP, something like that. So I presume, and my question is, what you will be doing around that to fill that gap, and there will be a further gap, I believe, from the Environment Agency's latest decree on the North West Relief Road, because some surety around this funding for all sorts of different schemes is going to be fundamental. It also looks as though councils will individually be given a funding pot in the future, but it may not be, and it may be that you've got to set up another group, or you may not disband, and so on. So, when will we get some detail, and what action are you taking to make sure that whether I agree with your priorities or not, what you're going to do to make sure that the council's priorities are fulfilled, even if the LEP is disbanded? And I am far from sure that 4.2 million to the North West Relief Road is a good thing, but there we go.
Good. There were questions in there.
Right. I'll answer part of it, Heather, but I won't be able to give you the full answer today, if that makes sense. I totally agree with you, and I've already had discussions with James Walton about the exit strategy for the LEP, because we need to understand you know, from March onwards, there's going to be not just us, not just the North West Relief Road, but there's going to be lots of funding pots that haven't yet been delivered. And how do we maintain them, and how do we keep the ongoing? Who is going to finance the administration? Who is going to monitor, etc., etc.? And I think the vagueness from government at the moment of what's going to replace them is also part of the problem. So what I'll commit to members is that when I've got a more direct briefing on the LEP and what is going to happen, I will put that on the member portal, and I'll wing you an email so you can have a briefing note on there. Will that suffice?
Thank you. Councillor Dean, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carroll, for your answer and for bringing into the public domain the membership of the board who are allocating funds on our behalf from the UK SPF, and for the fact that we should be getting a report to members shortly. My first question is if there's any update on what that will happen. Two other questions. One is under point 4, you make the point that impact reports are not done at that level of individual fund allocations, which I quite understand. But in general, I think we do need to have an impact report that shows that the use of this money is aligned with priorities of Shropshire Council and with the Shropshire Plan. So I'm asking if we can ensure that when we do get a report to members, that it does actually report on that issue. And the second is really to ask whether you're satisfied with the rate of use of this money. We've got 12.5 million to spend, and so far in the first 6 months, because it was decided in December 22, we've managed to spend £250,000. So I wonder if you could comment on that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Dean, can you answer now, or is that something you come back with?
Some of the elements of your supplementary question, Julian, I will get back to you in writing. In terms of reporting, as I said in answer to the fifth part of your initial question, the quarterly reports on the scheme as a whole will be brought back to members, including assessments, impact assessments on the use of the scheme as a whole. It's not considered to be best use of the time of what is a fairly small team to do individual impact assessments on every one of the minor applications that have been made and are granted. That's a view we've taken, and I think it's the right approach as we're prioritising actually getting the allocation spent. In terms of am I happy with the rate of progress, I think that the amount spent is not necessarily the same as the amount allocated. In terms of the question you asked, what proportion of the fund was spent, and that is listed here. I think we may have given you a slightly different answer if you'd asked the question of what's the total value of the applications approved and funds allocated to date. That I would have to get to you in writing, as I don't have the figures on the top of my head. But I am very happy and proud of the efforts that what is a small team have been going to in relatively short time so far to deliver both the UK SPF and the Rural Shared Prosperity Fund. And I have full confidence in the team to deliver that, the full 12.4 million and the full £2 million Rural Shared Prosperity Fund within the time window.
Thank you. Councillor Buckley, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. And I circulated an email to members this morning at 11 minutes past 10. So I invite you just to open the email so that I can refer to the photographs within. So thank you for your answer, Richard Marshall. I'd just like to clarify that all the issues in the list, in the question, have passed highways inspection and have been allocated to the highways contractor. And in the example that I have circulated, you can see the level of disrepair is pretty significant. The reason why I want to talk about this example on Queensway Drive...
It's for a supplementary question as opposed to a talk about...
Last 3 lines. Right. This particular one in Queensway Drive has been waiting for 14 months, and you can all see the level of problem. I get so many residents raising it. One resident in particular is a childminder with a double buggy, and one of her children tripped on this footpath and broke his nose. She made a formal complaint to this council. She's still not heard after 10 weeks. That's 4 weeks later on our own protocol.
Julia,
My question to the cabinet member is, why do you think that this is good enough for Bridgenorth?
Okay. Do you wish to answer now, or?
Yes, I'll answer if I may. As you know, and you've been in correspondence with a senior officer in Highway over the past week or so on this week alone, some work has been carried out on Queensway Drive where the drainage has been replaced, which has been creating a lot of the problems with the water ingress that's been lifting the tarmac. We've also had the BT cover replaced and repaired. So work has started. And I know there's always this thing that you go that we forget Bridgenorth. We really don't forget Bridgenorth at all. It takes as much priority as every other part of the county.
14 months.
It takes every priority the same as the rest of the county. Some of the works that we get in with highways, obviously, it will be prioritised in need. When it comes to the footpath, that footpath has been looked at. As you know, through the responses you've had from highways, there are some technical issues with that in the fact of when it can be closed to complete the work with schools and the crossings that are on it as well. So it is in the programme, it is on the list. We have completed only this week some work on that particular footway, and the rest of the work is on the list to be completed.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Wilson, do you have a supplementary question?
I'll make it short. I just wanted to ask Councillor Marshall, when could we expect to see the first LTN 120 compliant piece of infrastructure in Shropshire?
Sorry, I don't have the answer to that to hand, but I will respond in writing.
Okay, thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 13, which are the dates of the council meetings for 22-23. I move the dates of the meetings of the council as set out in the agenda be approved.
I second that resolution.
Okay, looking for anybody who wishes to debate it. Right, all those in favour, please show. Any against? Abstentions? We'll call that unanimous for those that are remaining. Okay, now, I did say at the beginning that if we got to 11:30, because we have all of the council meetings to do post it, we would break before item 14, which gives people a chance to have a fairly quick refreshment. I'm going to give about till 10 to. Okay, actually, yes, no, we will do item 14 first. You're quite right. We'll exclude the public and press, and we don't need to go back into live session, and everybody doesn't need to watch us leaving for some sustenance. So, item 14 then, I move that in accordance with the provisions of Schedule 12A Local Government Act 1972, paragraph 10.43, that the council's access.
Mr. Chairman, on a point of order, if I may, the election of chairman of the different committees, will that be done in public or in exempt? Because we're going to exempt now. So when can the members of the public expect to be able to tune in and watch what happens at the committee chairman elections in the future?
Yeah, Roger, I get the gist of it. I'm not sure necessarily that falls in with a legitimate point of order, but I did let you finish. They are separate meetings. They are not part of this meeting. So I don't know what the arrangements are for those. That's not. I will no longer be chairing those meetings. I can only look at Tim to
if you'll allow me, Chairman, I would suggest that you adjourn this meeting to be reconvened after the finish of the chairman.
Well, I'm not going to make.
If anybody wishes to watch, they can.
Okay, that's very nice of you to suggest it, but I don't. We don't need to adjourn the meeting, do we? No, we'll stick with what we are. I'm going to carry on with this, Roger. Thank you very much. Your point has been raised. They are separate meetings. They are like individual scrutiny meetings. So we will move on. We will finish the business of this council, and I will close this council meeting before we go into those separate meetings, which is other than the bits that I'm involved in, not for me to chair. So, okay. So, once again, I move that in accordance with the provisions of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, paragraph 10.43 of the Council's Access to Information Procedure Rules, the public and press be excluded for the consideration of the remaining business.
I second.
All those in favour, please show. Any against? Roger, did you actually put your hand up then, or? Oh, right. So you are in favour of doing it this way. Okay. That's any against, any unanimous, any abstentions? One abstention, Councillor.